Thank you for joining us tonight. Very strong piece by Kim Strassel today suggesting that potentially there was an asset of sorts that was in the Trump campaign. Do you think that was the case?
We have reason to believe that there could have been, to use the terminology, there could have been an FBI spy in the campaign, someone who is affiliated with the FBI, actually was dealing with people in the Trump campaign. And that's one of the things that we're trying to pin down to make sure that is the case. If it is, it raises very, very serious questions because there's been, to us, no real reason given why the investigation began in the first place, why the FISA warrant was granted in the first place. And then was this person, what role did this person have? If he was an FBI operative, if he was dealing with people in the Trump campaign, was he put there by the FBI? If so, you have the FBI actually spying on a presidential campaign. And again, there can be other consequences to this. So this is really, I say, unprecedented in American history. And perhaps if there was a real justification for it, and it had to be extreme justification, you could maybe consider it. But in this case, we've seen virtually no consideration for the beginning of the investigation at all, never mind having a spy in the campaign.
Yeah. Well, Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy were brought over to look at some of these documents, but they weren't actually given the documents to look at themselves, is my understanding. They were briefed on the documents. So it adds to the notion, Congressman, that they're being so close to the vest with all of this information, even with congressional entities and committees whose job it is to have oversight of judiciary and intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, they have, I believe, no right to be holding this back. And as we know, the FBI has been leaking things to the media all the time anyway. So suddenly they're so concerned about something getting out. No, this is vital to our investigation. It's vital to know what happened here. I mean, you consider all of the improprieties at the top of the FBI, including Andy McCabe, including the two lovebirds who are in charge of the investigation, the people who have had to resign, the people who may be indicted. They were running the investigation. And then you add this element to it. And it's amazing that President Trump is the one who's being targeted here, who's being investigated. And so much went wrong at the other end, at the FBI end, and yet right now they're stonewalling us. And they've stonewalled us all along, and this is just another ad. But listen, Martha, the president can resolve this. The president can order them to release this. And I think he should. If they won't do it, and if they can't find a reasonable solution to this, then the president should order them to do it.
Do you have any indication that the White House is prepared to do that, or that, that he would like to do that? And if not, why not?
I think the president is getting closer to that. I think they tried to convince the president within the last week or so. The FBI did, and the Justice Department did, that somehow giving this information was going to cost the loss of a human life, it would put someone's life at risk. That's not true. I think the president is starting to realize that they were putting one over on him.
When you look at what Glenn Simpson testified in front of the committee, he says the reason that they believed Christopher Steele's dossier is that they had an internal source in the campaign. That was the wording that he used that corroborated some of it. And you look back at the unmaskings and the conversations that were listened to and the early stages of this, it feels like it's possible that they had somebody who was inside, who was confirming some of this for them. And if that's the case, and they feel like they have a legitimate Russian collusion investigation, then why wouldn't they be willing to say, here were our concerns, here's the evidence, here's why we had to make sure that we got this information this way?
Right, well, they could turn this around on us completely. If they could show that this person really was legitimate, if there really was significant evidence, but they won't. And they don't, because I think this is all unraveling in front of them, and they're doing all they can to cover themselves.
Something. Congressman Peter King, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Martha, have a good weekend.
You too. Coming up.
So I'm going to change your nappy now. Is that okay? Of course, the baby's not going to respond. Yes, Mum, that's awesome. I'd love to have my nappy changed.
Well, that was a big turn, right? A so-called sexpert suggests that the culture of consent actually needs to begin at birth with the diaper change. The controversial debate with Jesse Waters of The Five straight ahead. Plus, nearly 18 months after the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton is still trying to figure out what happened, the name of her book, and says it's